Flashbacks. Something in Your Eyes. By Steph. It all began with a small bruise. Something so tiny. And so insignificant. But it was at that moment everything started to change. Sam had been lethargic for several days. Not eating. Barely even attempting to get out of bed. Out on the driveway, Bumblebee monitored his human with concern. It was not so much what was wrong. It was that there was no obvious explanation. Only when Sam's mother, Judy, decided to act, did things really roll into motion. Bumblebee loyally took the family to the doctor's, located on the far side of town. During the drive, Sam's body seemed to act against him as he emptied the contents of his stomach on the roadside. By now, Bumblebee was frantic. Not only was there something seriously wrong with Sam, he was powerless to do anything about it. All he could do was watch and wait for the verdict from the human doctors. In the parking lot, Bumblebee monitored the conversation between Sam's parents and the medical professionals. With his advanced Cybertronian hearing, Bumblebee could easily make out the words being exchanged. It could be a virus, possibly what is causing Samuel's unusual symptoms. I will draw some blood and run some tests. They should shed some light into what is causing this. Bumblebee heard Sam cough miserably. His spark twinged at the awful sound. Blood tests? Judy's voice echoed. Yes. Try not to worry, Mrs. Witwicky. I am sure whatever this is, we can help. Oh, how wrong it was to make a promise like that to a mother. Especially one that was not totally certain to be kept. On the way home, Bumblebee remained silent as Sam drifted to sleep on the back seat. A gentle tap on his dash brought the young mech out of his thoughts. I'm scared, Bumblebee, Judy whispered, tightening her grip on his steering wheel. Bumblebee could feel the woman's worry from the way she held her body. Mrs. Witwicky, I don't know what is wrong with Sam, but I will help you find out in any way I can. Judy stared at the dash for a moment, letting a small smile stretch across her tired face. Thank you. In the weeks that followed, Sam's condition only seemed to deteriorate, and after a particularly violent display of sickness, Sam was finally admitted to hospital. The results from the blood test confirmed everyone's worst fear. Emma and Mrs. Witwicky. My name is Dr. Harper and I am overseeing your son's treatment. Both parents took in the doctor's expression. She wore the typical professional artier, one who seemed to be experienced in dealing with sick loved ones' families. How do you do? Checking her notes, Dr. Harper pulled up a chair, sitting opposite Sam's parents. Samuel's white blood count is much lower than normal. His blood is also presenting a very low percentage of normal red blood cells and platelets. This would suggest a leukemic syndrome. It was then both Ron and Judy fully understood the severity of their son's condition. For Judy in particular, it was all too much. She broke down on the main corridor of the hospital as her husband tried to offer her comfort while at the same time dealing with his own emotions. Leukemia. Dr. Harper nodded her head. Yes. I'm so very sorry. But we are sure with what Sam's blood is presenting to us, he could have acute promyelocytic leukemia. We will need to perform a bone marrow aspirate to be certain, but from what we already know, this diagnostic seems to be most likely. It was from that moment on, Bumblebee's world slowly started to fall apart. Sam was immediately put onto a high-intensity chemotherapy treatment to try and reduce the number of leukemic cells in his blood. The first time, Sam violently started to throw up, and by his fifth treatment, most of his soft brown hair had fallen from his head. Bumblebee rarely left Sam's side, spending most of time in the hospital car park, keeping sensors on his charge at all times. 2 months after the initial diagnostic, Sam had been put into remission. Things were looking up, and Sam was allowed home. That gave Bumblebee hope. Bumblebee then made the effort to spend extra time with Sam. Every day, the pair went to the overlook or out for a long night drive when Sam's parents allowed it. For 3 short weeks things finally seemed right in the world once more. Until Sam's relapse. The hospital confirmed the results within hours. The cancer was back, more aggressive than ever, and so began the new rounds of chemotherapy treatment. But by now, Sam's body was tiring as he succumbed to the deadly illness. Flashback. What do you mean there is nothing you can do? There has to be something. Ratchet's optics widened as Bumblebee plowed his fist into the wall. Pain flared through his arm, but he welcomed it. Anything was better than the agonizing sense of failure that burned deeply in his spark chamber. Why? Just tell Amy that. Why him? Bumblebee's voice wavered now, his half-healed vocal processor struggling with the intensity of the words. Ratchet said nothing, as Bumblebee slammed another fist into the weakened structure. The medic made no move to stop him. He just let the young scout's anger burn itself out. Watching as Bumblebee slowly sank to the floor, letting out a low mechanical wail. I'm sorry, Bumblebee. So sorry that the universe has decided to be so cruel. Bumblebee didn't hear Ratchet's words, only the sound of his own pain. Sam had returned home by now, after 4 more months of agonizing pain and fighting. The doctors concluded none of the treatments were working. It was time to let nature take its course, and Sam took it all in his stride, accepting that it was his time. At only 18 years of age, Bumblebee frantically stayed by Sam's bedside every night using his hard light hologram, spending every single precious moment with his dear charge. Sam's parents often sat with him, doing all they could to make Sam's last few weeks as comfortable as possible. One particular night, after both Ron and Judy had gone to bed, Sam had one of his rare elusive moments where he was very aware of what was going on. On the driveway, Bumblebee immediately noticed. Activating his hologram, he entered his charge's room through the window, smiling lightly, seeing that Sam was actually sat up in bed. Hey B. Sam's croaky voice greeted his guardian. Bumblebee walked forward, taking his usual seat by Sam's bedside. Hello Sam. Bumblebee murmured, carefully taking Sam's hand. How are you feeling? Sam's shoulders shrugged, his breathing hitching a little with the action. Can't complain. No worse than yesterday. Bumblebee grimaced, taking in Sam's paler skin tone. Day by day, Sam was slowly getting worse. It was now rare for him to be able to keep a conversation for longer than half an hour. Bumblebee watched intently as Sam's eyes locked with his own artificial ones. B. Sam started, his voice shaking now. "I'm frightened." Bumblebee's holographic eyes widened. Without hesitation he moved forward in his arms, drawing him close against his own chest. "SHHH. It's all right. I'm here," Bumblebee whispered, smoothing his hand against Sam's head. Tears fell, soaking the fabric of his shirt. Sam let out another choked sob, tightening his grip around Bumblebee's body. "I don't want to die," he ushered so quietly. Even Bumblebee strained to hear the words. Bumblebee's spark broke right there. Hearing Sam so helpless, he moved Sam gently forward, so that he could gaze at Sam's face. "It's going to be okay. You're not alone. I won't leave your side. Promise?" Sam asked, so childlike Bumblebee almost lost his focus. He nodded. "I promise." Sam gazed into Bumblebee's eyes for what seemed like an eternity before settling his head back down and allowing Bumblebee to draw his body into another warm embrace. Just 2 days after, Sam had stopped breathing in the middle of the night, his body finally having lost its battle with cancer. His parents had found him curled up in the arms of Bumblebee's hologram. Sam's face looked very peaceful, but the heaving sobs emitting from the body next to him were enough to let both parents know their beloved Sam had died. Bumblebee activated his hologram after only a few hours of recharge, loyally taking his seat by Sam's bed. Scanning his charge, Bumblebee noted his slower breathing and heart rate. He must be sleeping. Settling down, Bumblebee was content to just sit and keep an eye on what mattered. But to his surprise, Sam stirred, opening both eyes. The teenager made a move to sit up, but was quickly stopped by a hand across his chest. "No, Sam. You're still tired. Rest." Sam sighed, but complied as Bumblebee eased him back down into the soft fabrics of the mattress. His breathing hitched as he tried to speak. Instead, Sam just opened both of his arms. Taking it as a silent invitation, Bumblebee hopped up onto the edge of the bed, wrapping both arms around Sam's fragile body. Sam sighed, cuddling into the warm embrace. "B?" Sam managed to whisper in the darkness. "Yes, Sam." Closing his eyes, Sam moved his head closer to Bumblebee's chest, hearing the faint sound of an artificial heartbeat. "Tell me about Subartron. What it was like before the war." Stunned by his charge's random request, Bumblebee paused for a second. He gently ran a hand through Sam's hair before speaking. "Well, it was beautiful. All across the planet's surface as far as the eye could see. Huge spiraling buildings made of crystallite metal shone under the golden twin sun. The great city of Arkan to the north with its mighty sacred temple shined brighter than any star. With the Elspark housed there, it was a place of celebration and life. In its golden age, Subartron's purple-dawned sky glistened like diamonds as we watched the annual Primus meteor shower rain down from space." Bumblebee trailed off, glancing down at Sam. Worry surged through the yellow mech's spark. Sam's breathing was becoming much shallower than it should be. Caught in the middle of analyzing data, Bumblebee almost missed Sam's words. "Keep going," Sam whispered, letting a small smile stretch across his face. He hugged Bumblebee's hollow form tighter. Bumblebee sniffed. Even as a hologram, Autobots were more than capable of crying. After all, the hologram was an extension of themselves, with its own set of nanites and programming. They were the hologram just as much as they were themselves in vehicle form or robot form. Tears fell free of Bumblebee's face. He lowered his head down, his cheek touching Sam's ear. T-to-T-the-E. East lay the great crystal city, the most beautiful thing on Cybertron, with its brilliant roads that shone brighter than anything in the universe. Protected by the Guardian Omega Supreme, it was Cybertron's greatest achievement. I remember how me and Cliffjumper would race through its streets, before sitting together to watch the sunrise. The light would cascade down onto the tip of the crystal tower, sending a wave of colors across the horizon. We would often. Bumblebee once more fell silent, stroking a finger across Sam's face, tracing the smooth texture of his cheek. Sam? Bumblebee questioned. Only the silence of the night answered him. Bumblebee glanced down at Sam's face, his eyes filled with tears as he gently shook on his charger's shoulder. Sam. PP. Please, Bumblebee was sobbing now. He moved his head back down to bury his face into Sam's shoulder. He didn't need his scanners to tell him what had happened. Sam was gone, and he wasn't coming back. Bumblebee knew what the humans meant now when they said life is too short. It was too short, and Sam's had ended far earlier than it should have. At Sam's funeral, Bumblebee couldn't help but feel angry. It was true that bad things happen to good people. Sam didn't deserve to die so young. Yet somewhere some supreme being or force had decided his time was up. He was gone now, and there was no bringing him back. After the funeral, Bumblebee stood alone beside a white tablet, the only thing that now remained of Sam aside from his memory. Would he see Sam again somewhere beyond the stars? Silently looking down at the white gravestone, Bumblebee delicately traced the lettering with one metal finger. He hoped so. He really hoped so.